hang on here. Let's take a very close look at the battle spells because that will tell a very interesting story. Lead, and actually using it as efficiently as possible and punishing every single mistake. And if they do that, they can set the tone for the mid to late game all the way since as early as the 2nd or 3rd minute.
You can see in the start here, both teams wanting to go for just a normal start, not really going for anything too aggressive early on. They both just want to clear their camps, get to a point where they can finally actually deal out some damage to burst and obviously use those power spikes well. Here, Arashi, with the pathing of both of the junglers, it does feel like they want to play towards the side laners a little bit early as well. We've also seen many times that Del Rosario on the utility junglers really likes to go and clear that gold lane to help the Beatrix out.
Well, the early game is going to be so much pressure, so many things for the roamers to do, right? Because in the early game, it's always about how the roamers can facilitate. Will they move towards the gold lane? Will they move towards the mid lane? You know, once you get one of your laners ahead, that will allow you to use that lane as the basis to make plays happen.
Well, here teams, and now they're going to look again just to play it calmly, play it efficiently, and that's exactly what they need to do. They do not need to go for anything too aggressive here when they have the lead.
For the Indonesians, they need to make sure that they abuse that Cult Altar as much as possible. They do have the Black Dragon form as well, so those objective takes are going to be very much in their favor, only if they're able to actually get an advantage and actually capitalize on the fact that they have a bit more crowd control and they have a lot more utility that they can actually abuse to force the Philippines into a tough spot. But of course, if they do go too aggressively, there is a Lapu-Lapu, there is a Valentina, so a lot of counter-engage potential from the side of the Philippines.
Well, here it is, another engage coming in, and that's going to be Dreams taken really low. First blood over to Philippines as they're looking for more. That's the IMU doing work, stealing away to the Divine Judgment and picking up another for Imam in the mid lane.
That is what you have to be aware of, man. If you don't want to deal with the engage, you can engage on the engager, and that is exactly what the Philippines have done. They take out Dreams, and they hunt for stragglers afterwards. They have the tempo in the game right now, and if you look at the side lanes, that is where the action will start building up. Because with pressure in all the lanes from the Philippines, they're going to try and cut into the jungle and cut off members of Indonesia from their own backup.
I just really like how Soriano is taking this lane, is approaching this lane, this matchup, right? Up against the Melissa, he knows exactly that he is going to lose out if he goes for these trades, if he goes for these 1v1 duels. So what he does is he swaps over to the Bennett just to clear out the waves, rotates over to help this team, and simultaneously gets even more gold because they're trying their best to actually funnel as much towards Soriano.
And if Soriano gets a bit more items, he can very easily start poking down members from too low for a fight. It's going to be very difficult for the Indonesians to try and contest any kind of objective.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, here, Villa Luna in the gold lane. They're looking for some plays here up in the gold lane.
The gold lane, for sure, has been the target for a lot of plays, but here we go, Bruce Passion.
Soriano picking up a kill, and now Dreams is going to be very, very low. Gets out just barely here, but you can already see the cut coming in from Del Rosario over the top side. There's going to be flickers over under the tier 2. Dreams not using flicker just yet. Very wise to save that flicker as he did have a bit of backup.
Areas on the map to make plays around, and they do have a lot of very good catch.
This is it, Arashi. This is the meta that we have been mentioning about. The ultimate bonding experience where they group up as 5 into the mid lane. They start to just put in a lot of mid pressure so that they can actually have more room to play in the side waves. 4 members grouping up and always just dap-a-dap in that XP lane solo.
Villa Luna right now, though, has completed that Radiant Armor. That item reduces damage when it comes to multiple instances of damage. So against a Faramis, against a Kaja or the Gusion, it's going to be very good. But look at that.
Pick potential over to Del Rosario, but he comes in using so much damage with Appraiser's Wrath, taking back a whole lot of HP and outplaying the situation, turning it completely around. It's looking bad for Indonesia as that's going to be the 3rd turtle over to Philippines with no trades on the board, no turrets, no kills so far.
They put a trigger on that play with the objective to try and force the Philippines' hand. But instead, the Philippines has all the answers. A tanky front line, two tanky front lines, in fact, and a lot of utility to ensure that their member stays alive, and afterwards, they can just chase and take out members of Indonesia one by one. And even then, they go for the pressure, and it seems like the Indonesians, they have to try and make a huge play happen or a massive pickoff. But it's going to be very difficult because the positioning from the Philippines is way too good.
The setup, the positioning, and the trigger instantly onto Sycots, picking him up, baiting Indonesia over to that bottom side to pick up a free turret and 2 free kills in the process. It does feel like so far in this game, the Philippines are a step, maybe even 2 steps ahead of Team Indonesia as Dream's going to get knocked up. Imam looking for that follow-up, just a zone Indonesia away from the tier 2 as they look to start sieging down on every single turret.
The damage difference right now from both teams is just so difficult to deal with. We mentioned how there's only one real frontline on the side of Indonesia, and look at what happens to him in a big fight. He gets taken out. The cult altar is so non-existent. The Philippines are able to just burst through it and go on with their day. Soriano right now with the Malefic Roar completed. That is a lot of penetration on top of the already insane amount of damage and burst that the Beaches can bring to the table.
This is what Philippines loves to do when they're ahead, right? They use the distraction that is Dapadap, who's practically currently unkillable on that Lapu Lapu. They use him as a distraction in the side lane, solo, picking up a turret. Meanwhile, they set up on the other side. Usually, they like to play on the opposites. They take another step ahead, and they think 2 steps ahead of Indonesia. Right now, again, it's going to be Divine Judgment coming in, but it's all onto the frontliners with a lot of the resources burnt out. It's going to be Cyclops who jumps in and finishes off Soriano in the back lines, splitting Philippines in 2. Imam now flickering out, getting to safety, but all that was for the Lord. It's a 2-for-1 in the end. 2 kills over to Indonesia for a Lord take. Arashi, who's it worth for?
Oof, I think considering the fact that the Philippines are so ahead and they are focusing now more than ever on taking all those structures away from Indonesia, I think the Lord will be very, very beneficial. Unfortunately, they lose their gold leaner as well, which is not ideal. But if you take a look at the items right here, he is on 7,300 gold. As you mentioned, BOD and straight to a Malefic Roar, ensuring that anyone getting caught in his ultimates will get absolutely decimated.
What's another thing that I want to mention is the fact that the kill, 2 kills that Indonesia picked up earlier was onto 2 members with no bounty. There was no shutdown there. So even though Indonesia were able to find some kills, it was just normal gold. It wasn't the added gold that we usually see. And they get the Lord for that. So if it was a shutdown, I would actually say that Indonesia definitely came out on top in terms of value. But here, Taz might actually be caught, forced to use that ultimate defensively to get out.
And everyone is from the Philippines is available because the death timers are very, very short, and they're going for a siege here where Indonesia don't have a lot of tools to try and counter the poke damage. Slowly but surely, the Philippines is chipping away at the structures and at the EHP bars of the Indonesian players.
It's a good defense by Indonesia. They're able to minimize their losses here, only losing that tier 2 in the mid lane for now. But Brands is going to be zoned away from that mid lane. Philippines looking for that, but look at Sycots with the Petrify. He's able to find 2 on the flanks. Sycots absolutely massive as his engage has started a war that Indonesia can finally win here in this game. 3-for-0 trade as Indonesia look to climb, to crawl themselves back in this game.
Blink and you'll miss it. An engage that gave way for Indonesia to take 3 kills for a trade of none. And along with that, Taz is able to secure the purple buff from the side of the Philippines as well. So now they have a momentum. They have recovered a bit of that gold difference. Only 2K right now. But the Philippines, they are still in the lead, and they are no stranger to these late game situations.
Dreams opening up the map just a bit. Going to be chunked down by Del Rosario, but he is going to be able to back off without having anything taken away. Honestly, looking at it right now, Rashi, Indonesia, their main win condition, we thought it would be Brands on that Melissa. We thought it was going to be the Gushin on the hands of Taz, but it's actually Sycots, the man that has been doubted so many times by everyone.
By the public. I mean, this man has had a very lackluster season in his last performance. That was a performance in the last season, actually, rather. But here, knowing that Indonesia are relying very, very heavily on a very reliable engage. His Yuzong has been critical, but after 2 engages, will Philippines fall for the same trick twice?
Divine Judgment over the Dreams. That's going to be the front liner taken out. That's going to be that. Oh my god, so much damage onto the Lapu.
Unfortunately, won't be enough though. And now Indonesia, they're actually backing away, and it will be waiting for the Lord take. And Philippines, they are so good at the Lord dance. Going back and forth, waiting for their opponents to make a mistake, and with such a long-range basic attack on their B-tricks, they can do better.
That's what they were waiting for. The Black Dragon form now baited out. Cuts with a Petrify onto Soriano, who's forced to flicker out, but Psychos jumps in. 1v4, soaking in all the damage and sustaining back up. Top it up, gonna be taken down by Brands, and that's another kill over to Indonesia, who were able to play with the death timers of Dreams really well. With him now respawning, they've taken back the lead if they actually can secure the Lord, which they should be able to. Free Lord over to Indonesia. They're not stopping just yet though. Concealed play from Indonesia. They back off.
Back off for now, as the orange buff will be contested as well. So the Philippines are now on the back foot. And if we look at the composition, in a way, right, in the big team fights, there's a lot more DPS and utility available in the hands of the Indonesians. After that play, they go for the purple buff as well. And the Philippines have a huge problem on their hands. The Black Dragon form lasts for way too long. The Guiding Wind was used to try and buy some make some distance, buy some more time, but it was not enough. The Philippines must come up with a different solution, a different answer.
A momentum shift in the 13th minute of the game. And now it's Philippines who have their backs against the wall with the Enhanced Lord marching in that top lane. Evo's legends here, Team Indonesia, are going to look to try to siege them down. Psychos once again with a Black Dragon form as Del Rosario tries his best to keep Psychos at bay. The damage comes through once again for the siege to take place, but that's going to be Dapadap, who jumps in with the Bravest Fighter. But it's going to be a good disengage from Indonesia, backing off knowing that they have found some value. They've taken every single tier 2 except for the bottom lane.
And look at how Psychos is playing around with his Petrify, man. He goes in for the Black Dragon form, but he doesn't always use that Petrify. And when you think about it, the Petrify is what makes these engages so dangerous. It guarantees the Furious Dive knockup, and that is what allows Indonesia to just be a lot more elusive. And as we talked about it earlier, this is what is so dangerous. They can feint around, act like they're about to engage a fight, and then back away. The Philippines need to identify the right moment and then adjust accordingly. Do they want to go and fight after the Black Dragon form is down, or do they want to just stall?
Villaluna with that circling eagle over the Brands, but it's going to be baited in with the cold ulcer placed as well. Soriano targeted by the flanks, and that's going to be Taz who picks up the Beatrix. Soriano taken down, Brands in the midst of it all, still life-stealing with his fighter! Brands is massive! He is an absolute beast as he wins the battle for Indonesia! It's a 4-0 trade! Indonesia with a comeback here with the tides turned completely. Only Villaluna left to defend with the mini wave crashing in. Villaluna going to be brought back by the Shadow Stampede. Villaluna outside of the base, and Indonesia with the Divine Judgment onto Villaluna will go for the base to pick up the first. Last time we saw it, it was high.
It was high, and this is a very interesting situation here, because earlier in the game number 1, we saw that for Indonesia, what the movements are going to be.
Both teams again just fighting for that mid control that is so prio, so necessary now in this current meta. Both Taz and Del Rosario are looking to go for this Lethal Wanderer, but it does feel like Indonesia will have a bit more of an advantage with the faster wave clear in the mid lane. That's the Lethal Wanderer secured by Taz, getting him a bit more XP and gold to play with. So he'll have that power spike very early on, already at level 4.
As we mentioned, the wave clear game is now being a lot more monitored, a lot more managed by the players from the side of Indonesia. They've suffered from it once, they are not trying to suffer the same fate again. So right now, they're just moving around, and I think before the first turtle spawns, it's going to be relatively slow. But as I say that, though,
uh-oh, there you go. That's the barrier with a wild charge. Psychon's now going to be caught. First blood over to Philippines, but look at Taz. He's able to bring the members back in with a heavy spin. Del Rosario going to fall. The jungler for the XP lane, and Dapda will be forced to flicker out of there. Villaluna a bit late on this rotation to match up against the Indonesian mid laners, but it is still just going to be a 1-for-1.
So 1-for-1. So both teams now holding their own, but this is where things get a bit hairy. The first turtle, where everyone has their ultimates, we have to see who can actually weave in the better team fight.
No ultimate for Del Rosario just now. Taz gonna go for it. Will be able to secure the turtle with a brilliant retribution. Dreams gets knocked up, but Philippines decide to back off. Now Dreams flickering forward, gets the Divine Judgment onto Imam, who's able to flicker away. Psychots has the Black Dragon form, looking for it, just decides to zone the Filipino members here and backs off.
And back away, and we can take a look at how the changes have impacted this Faramis, right? The Cult Altar was used in that fight, and with one single spell, the rest of the team from Indonesia is able to melt down that HP bar. So it really isn't an all-win teamfight solution, but it is very situationally used to help save members from big burst damage.
Now it's a complete change from game number 1. Imam, though, going to be immobilized. That's the damage coming through. Whew. Sniped down by Brands, but the kill will go over to Hijume. Brands sacrificing a bit of gold there in the bottom side, but will still be able to catch up down below to pick up that cannon minion.
With stronger laners on the hands of the Indonesian players, they are now able to actually match the aggression, the fights, the skirmishes from the members of the Philippines. And now you can see that the Kaja pick is just having a lot more impact. This is what they wanted to do in game number 1, but the macro play coming in from the Philippines was able to deny that. That won't be the case for this game, though, and now this becomes a contest of proactivity. Who can have the higher work rate, the more versatile maneuvers, and just the more proactive plays.
And this is the reason as to why I felt like the Leslie should have been the one, the hero, to be banned out by Team Philippines. Because you can see, on this Leslie, sure, you're very vulnerable, but you also are really good at actually going at duels up against the Beatrix. I would actually say in a 1v1, it's skill dependent, but Leslie has a bit of an edge. Why? Because he doesn't need to target any of his skills. It's not a skill shot. Meanwhile, for the Beatrix, you need to go for those render shots to actually be able to compete in that range battle.
They have to be careful, though, because Soriano has the Blade of Despair completed. It will be a big factor in the next fight. The Turtle is being pressured for both teams, but it seems like the Indonesians will have a bit of a lead in the control game.
Divine Judgment and the Petrify. Imam gonna be able to pop the Cult Altar. Taz against 3 members, still able to secure the turtle. Right now, Psychot jumps in with the Black Dragon form, zoning the backline away. Dapadap gonna be pinned down onto the wall with the heavy spin, and that's Hijume who picks up the killing spree. Everything going well for Indonesia, and everything going wrong for Philippines in the early game of Game 2.
They lose a member to the pickoff, they lose a turtle to the steal, so Indonesia is completely taking over and looking completely different. Is this a momentum thing? We'll just have to see. Hijume with the Ice Queen's wand right now will ensure that the Filipino members need to be a bit more careful, even more careful in how they want to position. They've been getting caught out without that slow as well.
Brands has just been farming up a storm. I really want to take a look at these items, right? It's a good steal by Soriano, but he got full turret gold, clearing waves constantly. He should have more gold than Soriano here with the assist that he got as well. But here in the mid lane, the bottom side river, Del Rosario going to be chained up again, and that's the pin down with a heavy spin. Del Rosario going to fall for the second time in this game. Dreams with another Divine Judgment over to Imam, as that's the Nibiru's Passion dealing no damage over to Taz, who jumps in again. Soriano zoned away, but the damage coming from Brands, shooting him down. Dapadap finally rotating towards that bottom side, but it's a bit too late once again. Team Philippines falling more and more behind as we go and progress into the game.
The Philippines are having very much trouble trying to manage distance because they're being slowed an insane amount. At any moment, it starts with the slow, and then it gets followed up with the divine judgment, with the heavy spin. So Indonesia's pick-off game is going exactly how they want it to, and right now, they also have the advantage when it comes to range, and also when it comes to that late game. They have that artillery with the real-world manipulation, and they also have the Leslie that can do a lot of true damage, up to 2k in a single hit, and in the late game, Soriano will have a lot of issues trying to get any impact done in the middle of a big team fight.
There's so much CC from Team Indonesia. There's a lot of survivability from Philippines, but they need to be able to utilize that crazy engage from the wild charge, and right now, it just doesn't feel like they are going to be able to. Taz there going for the turtle. That's going to be the real world manipulation that was popped into for Soriano to flicker out. They baited out the Cult Altar, and they baited out Villaluna into the other side of the wall. Mid lane turret going to be sieged down. Brands looking just to poke the Filipino members, but it's a good disengage by both teams. It's still a small victory for Indonesia with that turtle take.
Look at how much movement, how much of a reaction you can see from the Filipino players whenever Psychots is on the map, whenever he makes an appearance. He wasn't even popping the Black Dragon form initially, and everybody was walking backwards in fear of that engage coming through. And when you are so focused like that, you are not looking at Taz with a heavy spin. You are not looking at Dreams waiting for that divine judgment.
What I want to look at is definitely the items here for Brands, because I wonder how much gold he's actually gone this game. So far, he has been left untouched to free farm. And he's dealing so much damage. That's going to be the flicker over to Divine Judgment as well to find Del Rosario. The true damage does its work. Brands picks up the kill. Dapadap trying to look for a re-engage now, but only taunting Taz. Look at the poke put down by Brands. Dream's going to be in the midst of it all right now, as he is going to be able to dish out some damage to zone the other members away. Dream still there with Psychots from Psychots with a petrified to find Soriano, and the furious dive to get Imam low under the tier 1. Gunned down by Brands. It's a 2-0 trade for Indonesia.
Unreal execution coming in from Indonesia right now. We thought that Psychots was the main distraction. He was the one coming in from behind. You barely notice it until it's way, way too late. Let's take a look at that replay right now. The fight was breaking up. There's a lot of action back and forth, and Psychots out of nowhere. The tower doesn't even matter because it's way too low. Indonesia able to actually push Philippines into a very uncomfortable position, and now with all the advantages when it comes to crowd control, when it comes to damage, they are looking at a cruising victory in game number 2.
This is insane.
Unreal.
That's the word you can use for it, right? So much doubt for this Indonesian team after they qualified to represent Indonesia with only a week to prepare right after qualifying. Still able to play super well. And now they're rotating towards that top side. Taz soloing that lure. Del Rosario caught, no one there to help him out. Has to use the wild charge defensively and will lose out on a lot of HP. Brand still is able to get out, has the flicker. They're gonna go in for another re-engage here. Just some poke down onto the frontliners. And you can see that true damage, Arashi. I really wonder what the items are looking like right now, because the damage is pretty unreal already in 9 minutes for a Leslie.
It comes with a true damage, and when you're concerned about the true damage, you can actually feel the burn coming in as well. Look at the items, as you mentioned. The Windtalker, the Endless Battle as well, allows him to get so much more burst damage initially, and after that, the Berserker's Fury allows him to dish out a healthy amount of DPS. On the other hand, you can see the Yeve, right? Hijumi with the glowing wand. All these tanky members are taking percentage HP damage whenever he's dishing out these spells, and they are absolutely spammable. And the siege game is dangerous.
Villaluna going to be caught in that real world manipulation. Imam as well zoned away. The wave manipulation from Indonesia, absolutely phenomenal, as they are going to be able to use the Lord down below to pick up a turret. With Psychot zoning other members away with a Black Dragon form as well. That's base turret number 1 taken down. Top side pushing in, but Indonesia will decide to just play it slow, clear out the mid lane, and reset.
They have an absolute advantage when it comes down to those siege situations. Having the Yave, having the Leslie means that you do not have to go and force those fights, because there's no other way for the Philippines to dish back that kind of damage. Soriano is the only solution they have, and at this point, when the only option you have when you only have a single option, it becomes very easy for your opponents to try and adjust to that. But the Philippines, it seems like they are not willing to completely concede control just yet. They need to be very careful though, because the flank game, that flank game is just so on point from Indonesia right now.
This is what we saw in Game 1, only just the opposite happening here in Game 2. Indonesia having control the whole 10 minutes early on. Philippines with a very similar flanking position here to look for something, but it's going to be a concealed play from Indonesia. And oh my God, Dream finds the divine judgment onto the best possible target. Soriano's out. Dapadap has to flicker out, but Psychos chases him down with a passive. Dapadap still surviving here. Only one member taken down, but that might just be the member that Indonesia needs to pick up some more base turrets. That high ground control is no longer available for Soriano. Dapadap trying to go in for some damage right there, but it's actually going to be petrified from Imam. He's going to be taken down. The wild charge in desperation. Villaluna in the back has to back off. It's an absolutely insane game and an insane performance from Indonesia as they knock Philippines down to the lower brackets.
How? What? Oh my! We have.
Cause I don't give a fuck what you say. Yeah, I'ma do shit my way. So you can go kick